people's revenue was moving over to mobile. I don't think Facebook at this point had like half their revenue on mobile, but because they hadn't IPO'd yet. I think. But anyway, you know, mobile was becoming very important. Revenue was starting to shift there, and the usage patterns were trending towards the mobile and away from the web. And so I thought to myself, you know, what does this remind me of? And before I worked at a dating site way long ago, I worked at Microsoft, some products you may have heard of, that had what was called a 3-year ship cycle. So what that means is you release one product every 3 years. And even with that, we had lots of automation. And the reason behind this was when you make something like that over there, it's expensive. Like when you work on a website, it really doesn't cost anything to, you know, push more code out. But when you work on something like Office, like I worked on, or Windows, every time you finish your thing, it gets printed on a disk, which costs like a quarter or a nickel or whatever it costs. And so if you were to find a horrible bug, it would cost the company millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to fix. And because of that, we had thorough automation and testing on everything. And the way that's really similar to iOS is that when you push something to the App Store, you're not really burning it on a CD, but if you make a boo-boo, it can take a week or so to get Apple to let you submit a patch for it. And so it can be quite costly. So on the dating site, if we've broken, I don't know, let's say subscription, that's 5 to 7 days where no one on an iPhone can subscribe and give us money, which for the business is just a total disaster. So I guess less testing was not an option. Automation was a must. And so I talked to my manager and said, I need to figure this out, give me a couple weeks. So I went away and I took a look at what was out there, and everything was not awesome. These are some of the things out there. Robotium, I don't know who here has used it, but it's sort of different from Appium. It's lower level, I would say, and in general it was hard to get working. And when you got it working, I won't go there. Phone Monkey, even more so, that thing. And then there was Instruments, which is sort of the one promising one, because it was a UI automation framework. But the problem was you had to write your tests in JavaScript, and they had to be run in the profiler for Xcode, which is called Instruments, which is just odd. I don't know who thinks, let me put my functional tests in the profiler. Because when people want to see how their memory is being used, they might also want to run UI automation. But apparently Apple had that thought, and they went with it. Because of that, Appium was born, I suppose. But anyways, so I took some time and figured out a way to get UI automation out of the sandbox. And I actually presented something entirely different at the Selenium conference here in London in 2012. But at that conference, some people saw, some of you may have been there, you may have saw like, oh, that iPhone is doing automation with Selenium. How does that work? And people asked me to do a lightning talk on it at the conference. And I went and I did it, and everyone applauded, it felt good, and then no one called me back, and it was awkward. It's like when you have that date that goes really well, and then she doesn't call, and you're just confused. And you don't want to call her back, because that's weird. That's always a good conversation. But anyway, eventually, Jason, who hosted the conference, Jason Huggins, who created the original Selenium, did call me back in August. He let me wait for a while, as you should, the 3-night rule. He did the 4-month rule. He's just that badass. But he called me back and he said, hey, I'm looking for something for Sauce Labs to automate mobile devices, and I remember your thing for the conference. Show me how it works. And so I took it over to him, and we went to this bar in San Francisco, and I showed it to him, and eventually I sent him over the code, and eventually someone called me and said, you should speak at this Mobile Test Summit conference. And sort of unbeknownst to me, a lot of stuff was happening in the background. So I went and I spoke at the Mobile Test Summit in San Francisco that year, and that was a great conference. There were a lot of good, smart people there with cool, smart solutions to the problem. I think everything that still exists probably was at that conference. There was Pete, who makes Frank, which is very popular these days. I don't think Robotium came, but that was sort of more of an established thing. The KIF guys, I think were there, but they didn't talk. This iOS driver guy there, so Android, all the stuff we have now was there, Calabash. And the point of the conference sort of get all these people together in a room and sort of have them figure out what the future of mobile automation looks like. And so when I presented it at that conference, a lot of people got very interested very quickly, and things started to sort of get out of control without my knowledge. And so one day, like a month later, like once again, I went to the conference, I did the talk, everyone clapped, and then like nothing happened. No one told me anything. And then one day, someone emails me like, hey, I'm having this problem with Appium, and they sent me a link to this GitHub issue on this repo I've never seen before. And unbeknownst to me, like 10 people had like forked the Appium repo and gone crazy with it and not told me about it. Like they said they were, but they never told me they actually did it. Anyway, so that happened, and then things really started to move, and all sorts of stuff happened. So I always bring this quote up from Jason. He says this is about Simon Stewart, who many of you know runs the WebDriver project these days. He says, my dream was always to get someone drunk, have them take over my project. And that's sort of what happened to Selenium. As you know, Simon sort of runs that now. So there's really not much involved with it. And I tell people, I got drunk and someone took over my project. And that's sort of what's happened with Appium. I'm still involved with it, but I just thought it's a funny foil that I got to have my cake and eat it too. Whereas Jason, he wasn't the one who got drunk. Anyway, so now it's a thing called Appium, and it's been several years since those conferences, and we now have over 100,000 people using it, and we have lots of contributors and GitHub stars and awards and whatnot. And I recently, someone sent me this, the guy from Austria sent me that according to some metric Google keeps, we are now the most used mobile automation framework out there. We recently just passed Robotium, which shocked me that that was number 2. And I would have thought it was Calabash or KIF or something like that, but it was actually Robotium. I don't know why. I'm guessing they're just first to market and want to migrate over. I need to find it. If any of you use Robotium or know someone who does, friends don't let friends do that. Just leave it at that. So anyways, and that's sort of the brief history of Appium as it was, right? And so, like I said, up to now, a lot of things have happened. But I just thought, when we founded it, these were the core principles. So we didn't want to have to modify the application for testing. We wanted to use recognized standards and automation APIs. All the other tools out there would have you put things like an HTTP server in your app, and would use private APIs and do all this hacky stuff. We wanted to do it the way that Apple and Google want us to. But we wanted to make that way sort of better for everybody. We also didn't want to restrict people as to what programming language they could use. That was the other thing, Calabash requires Ruby, and KIF requires Objective-C, and all these tools out that made you pick a language, and we thought, why? You're excluding 80%, 90% of what language you pick. People that could use your products. That's silly. And in the same spirit, keep it free and open source. That way, LinkedIn is a user of Appium, and also other things like Opera. So those are 2 very different companies. One with great resources and one with less. And it's open source, so everyone can enjoy it, right? How does it work? I don't know if you guys know this, but it just reads Selenium protocol commands, converts them to UI automation JavaScript or UI automator Java code, and then it just runs them on the server, parses the results. I won't go through any more specifics than that. So anyways, there's a question.
I'll ask you. And I'm sure everyone in the rooms had the same inclination or thoughts that everything you've done has always been on the top of Selenium. It's always been on top of Selenium. How bright it is, mobile or otherwise. Have you never felt, I could have written out this, so I changed that for what I'm doing for mobile? I'd have done something different. But Selenium is so pervasive. And it's free and it's open source and it's a great thing. actually attempting to change that is almost defeating what I learned throughout the last however amount of time to build Appium. Have you never felt that you could have written something that was different as your bedrock of Appium?
So we're at the point with Appium where if we wanted to part ways with Selenium, we could, because we've written our own client bindings for all the mobile specific stuff, because Selenium hasn't implemented the WebDriver 3 stuff everywhere for mobile. So we ended up having to write client libraries for everything. But at the beginning, you have to remember that fast to grow, having something that already existed in every language to sort of bootstrap onto was quite useful. Nowadays, we have 100+ contributors. We could rewrite the Selenium bindings, make up our own protocol, whatever we want to do. But I think having something that many people are familiar with, like Selenium, helps people sort of ease into Appium, and taking that away and making your own protocol, while I think we could do it a little bit better, I don't think it's going to be an order of magnitude better than what Selenium put out there. You know, I don't think it would be worth the trouble. Like, Selenium works, people know it. There's some weird stuff about it, you know, but like in general, it's a good foundation.
Okay, that was my question, whether or not you feel it's a good foundation, whether or not you feel it's not worth the trying, you know, but whether or not you never look at it and think, you know, cross-browser, mobile, maybe we could do this better. Selenium 3 is not forthcoming, is it?
No, it's not. It's been in review for a year and a half or more now. And Appium has sort of just done our own thing in the meantime. We're going to make what we did compatible whenever they decide what they're doing. But at this time, we've had to roll our own anyway. And I think we've seen that what Selenium has chosen over 3 sounds not as good, in our opinion. But largely, it's like not that big a deal, I would say. Cool. Good question, though. That's my diplomatic answer. Punctuated the punctuary, less diplomatic answer. Anyway. So, I was going to do like a big coding thing, but you guys all write Selenium. It's the same effing code. Like, just different capabilities. There's a mobile element class. It's the same thing. So, this could be a Selenium test if it didn't say iPhone simulator in it. And the same thing with the actual test. It's Selenium code. So, it's what you know, it's what you already do. No need to learn anything new. And just sort of for the scope of what it does. Real devices, simulators, native and hybrid applications, mobile browsers, all the languages. iOS 6 plus all versions of Android, and something that I didn't list on here. Well, so this is one I get a lot. And I want to kill the myth about this. People are like, I can't do 2 devices on Appium. And so I don't know if you really hear this, but it always bugs me. Tell me this, because so anyways, I don't know if you'll hear this. This is Jonathan Lips, one of the key contributors on Appium. And he's about to have a backup band of musical instrument apps orchestrated via Appium. I think a 5-piece band. Accompany him on the guitar. So he's the iPhone who's reading the lyrics. Got an Android drum kit, Android keyboard. And we're just using Appium to sort of send this UI automation over to everybody. So it's one script driving 5 servers. I'll let him sing over it. Anyway. If you want to hear the rest, it's probably on YouTube. Just look for LXJS Appium, and I think it's like towards the beginning. But anyways, as you can see, multiple servers do work, but most people don't know is you have to spin up multiple Appium servers. You can't. It's one device per server, but just pick a different port for the server. Appium is lightweight. It doesn't run in Java like Selenium, so it's really lean. It's in Node, so you can boot up 20 of those damn things. Like it doesn't bring the machine down. Anyways, it does Mac OS X apps, which is sort of telling the truth, but not really. I have a project that makes it do Mac OS X apps, and it does work, but only 1 or 2 other people use it. They're very talkative about it. But if you ever want to try to automate a Mac OS X app, check out Appium for Mac. There are cloud providers, one of which is here tonight, and on this slide. But if you don't want to host all this in-house, there's lots of people that can help you with it. I should have moved Testdroid up the slide. It's here tonight.
Well, don't worry.
I mentioned the awards. This other thing, we'll get there. But first, just wouldn't be an Appium talk if I didn't whip out Appium, right? So this is the Appium Mac app. There's a Windows one that's like the same but uglier. And I'll just load up one of the pre-canned demos I have. I'll start with my simulator. So I'm just going to launch this test app Apple gives people. The app actually controls the whole thing over Appium, I should mention. There's no special integration. You could hook this up to like iOS driver or something that would probably work. Never tried it though. So anyways, you see the app over there. Maybe I should scale that so it's better. Cool. And then you have the inspector here, which is talking over JSON wire to it. And actually, I should show you. If you're one of the Selenium IDE people, we love you too. You can go and write a test here. So let's write one in Objective-C. Why not? So I'm going to tap that button, and you'll see generates WebDriver code, taps the button. I don't know. That was so nice, maybe we want to see it again. There we go. Let's tap that button. Anyway, you see, you get your code down here. If you need the full capabilities and everything, we'll generate that for you too. Change your mind, you want it to Node, fine. And go see it again. There it is again. So anyway, this is a little IDE we have for recording stuff. I wrote it, so I showed off people. It's, write real code, don't use the IDE. Anyways, there's a few other things you can do in here. You can execute arbitrary JavaScript or Java code for Android. You can try and find elements, so let me find the buttons. I should show you this. Last name, I think it is. UIA button. Is there a button? It's a button. Oh, there it is. I think it's behind the screen or something. But let's find a page or something. There's a buttons page. Let's try this again. Multiple buttons. There's 7 buttons on the screen. Go figure. Anyway, there's some cool things you can do with this. I won't show you anymore. I should also point out that it does work with the mobile web, so instead of supplying an app, we want to do Safari in, I don't know, Japanese maybe? Feeling lucky. Let's see. There we go. This should boot up the Japanese iPhone simulator, as you can see. There you go. Safari Japanese. Anyway, it also sets the what? Sorry.
Sorry, just a naive question. What's stopping you from doing that for like Java applications or .NET applications?
What do you mean? What's stopping us from doing what?
From being able to use Appium to
make
test.
Appium work.
Yeah.
It can be done for Windows for desktop apps. I actually did the work a couple weeks ago for mobile Windows apps. It requires, for Windows Phone, it requires Visual Studio Enterprise Edition, which is $5,000 per seat, which is why we are currently decided not to integrate the answer into Appium. So it would be, don't have to modify your app, but it would mean you'd have to buy a $5,000 piece of Microsoft software. For Windows, it actually would work. I just haven't bothered to do it. I need to get a PC at some point. I could do it. But it would be almost the same code as the Windows Phone app. It would actually be a little easier even. But my pie in the sky Appium 2.0 vision is that it does Mac apps, Windows apps, and Windows Phone apps. And we sort of have proof of concepts on all of those working. Big drawbacks to the Windows Phone one, but the Windows one not so much. And the Mac one, I just need to find someone who knows some good old school CDev, because the accessibility APIs on Mac OS X are pretty nasty. I have a working version, but it's really slow. And someone just needs to optimize the F out of it. But it does work fully.
Do they talk to you? Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is amazing stuff. Sorry. This is amazing stuff, right? I ask you questions about Selenium or otherwise. But this is amazing stuff. The Microsoft or Apple turn around to you and say, you know, we want this to be automatable. We want more people using our platforms, yeah, Google or otherwise. Do they talk to you, or do they just say, yeah, whatever, carry on with that? You know,
All right, I can speak to that. Most of those conversations are had by Jonathan, since he does more of the project work these days, and he's over in that area of the world. But so Google has said, I believe, they were quoted saying, we're big fans of Appium, and they've come to some of our stuff before and invited us to speak at stuff, and they generally seem to be cool with it. Apple tends to ignore us. They don't really talk. Like, it's sort of like a one-way communication. We say something and then it disappears to a void.
Yeah.
I don't think we've approached Microsoft directly. I used to work at Microsoft.
Why not?
I used to work at Microsoft, and I think things are changing on this front in the last 6 months, given .NET is big open source. Yeah, and Visual Studio apparently in pieces. I've heard is big open source.
Yeah.
So maybe it is the time to go talk to them. It's probably a good idea. We have talked to the other two though, and they've seemed. Google is cool, but they really don't know they've given us anything specifically. They're just like, yay, good job. And then Apple is, I don't know, like they don't talk.
They're abstract.
Yeah.
They're not interested.
Yeah, they're off in the corner. And then Microsoft, until recently, was pretty hostile towards open source work. Having worked there, I believe the open source training I got was like, no, don't do that, or don't even go to the website. So it was really that bad when I was there. I remember I tried to use Selenium on a website I worked on, and I had to go through all sorts of legal approval just to use Selenium. Anyway. But yeah, things seem to be better nowadays, at least in the last year or two, and so maybe that's worth doing. But we at Microsoft, the stuff's all there. Like we really don't need anything. Like the work just needs to be done. I just have a billion things I'm working on, and I don't have a PC that isn't, you know, a time bomb 30-day trial virtual machine at the moment. All right, cool. So that works. That's good. And I'll just show you, just for the hell of it, Android exists. I'm starting to like Android because if you make a mistake on Android, you can just fix it in an hour. Manage testing of software, that's really useful. Makes my job way less stressful. That, like, they've been the whole, like, any device, any shape thing for the longest time. And Apple's sort of getting into that. They're doing it weird, you know? Just like, you have at 3x and at 2x and, like, all these random dimensions. Google just sort of built it in from the beginning, and it makes more sense now. But enough random. Let's see. This is an app that he gave me. I don't exactly know what. It's some kind of game. So I'm just going to watch it. And if Google Hangouts crashes and takes over the screen, that's what I get for hacking the Genemotion emulator. But I think it's finally stopped crashing. Let's see. The Android stuff can take a while sometimes, the first thing on it. But I'm just going to load up this game and you'll see it happier, and then we can move on to what's under that red box, which I think some of you know what it is. So like what I'm really here to talk about tonight.
Is that Appium install all the simulators for you, or is that separate manually?
One of the big problems we have with Appium is that it there's Hangouts. Hey, Hangouts. Oh man. Alright, so here's this game. Hangouts will probably crash again. Hey look, Appium's talking to Android. What do you know? Anyway. Wow, I didn't hear the music earlier. It's kind of porn.
Yeah, it's 80s.
70s porn.
70s porn.
Yeah, late 70s, I think. It wasn't alive, but I know that. Anyway, I'm just not going to touch that. Just let that linger out there. Cool. So let's do something interesting. So what I actually kind of want to show you is, you guys all know Selenium. There's not too much to Appium. We have our own meetup, actually. You should come. Jonathan Lips, who's like the architect of the Appium project these days, he's like the Simon Stewart of Appium. He's going to be here in the first week of July. You guys should totally come. You can ask him anything about Appium. He'll have more accurate answers than the ones I gave you tonight. But also more technical answers, probably. Cool. So Who here knows what this is? This is actually the town where people might know what this thing is. No one.
Yeah,
Except him.
yeah, I guess it's something you can hide, for instance, that actually touch the screen for you.
That is correct, sir. So let me see if I can weasel this cable. Maybe that helps. So this is a little thing. It's called a tapster. And what it does is it is the robot controller for Appium. So while Appium likes to talk to your favorite automation API, it also sometimes likes to talk to robots instead of sending gestures to your automation API. I've been trying to come up with a justification as to why this is important. And I will just say it is cool. I don't think that there's really any reason this should exist, but it does, and it is awesome. And that's on. So let's do something. This is my phone. Hopefully I don't get an embarrassing text. I forgot how to turn on Do Not Disturb mode. But that's what it's there for. Actually, let's open quick timeout. Why not? I'll get you guys a view of this so it's not all screen recording. Let's not look at me. Let's look at the phone. It's not working. There's something there. I was hoping to get the screen view of this thing. News. Movie recording, probably. Yeah, that works. Okay. So, that didn't work. There we go. Hey, look, it's my iPhone is on screen. All right. So, let's go Tapster software source. Works. Cool. So, what's going to happen here is I have an app on here. I'll show you what it is. It's called Robot Calibration App. And all it does is when you touch the screen, however many fingers you want, it tells you what point you're touching. So Appium can talk to this thing, and it can read these values, which is pretty useful. So I'm going to put this thing, I'm going to put it right under here, flush with the corner. And I'm going to launch an Appium server on this thing that runs that app, and you'll see that over there. Should run all the demos on my phone. Anyway, cool, so you'll see there, it's running over there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start the robots server. So it's just a node, and it's just a server. It sits there, and you can control the robot over the wire with HTTP. And then we're going to calibrate this beast. So I don't need to calibrate the arms, but I do need to calibrate the device. What this is going to do is it's going to lower the pen until it touches the screen. It'll know it touches the screen because Appium is trying to find these DOM elements that display whenever the screen touches. When it does touch the screen, you'll see the element appear, maybe. There we go. And then it records the coordinates it found, so you can see that in the window. So it finds, the down, and it finds north, and it finds east. And from there, we're able to build a matrix that allows us to do the magic of multivariate equation solving, find where any point is on the screen. So we now know that in the robot world, if you go straight down from the origin, 0, 0, on the screen that maps to 184, 292. If you move your y-axis positive 20, that corresponds to 188, 195, and you can see the x point there as well. So we've loaded this calibration data into the server, and what's interesting now is we're going to play a game. We're going to play How Drunk is the Robot. In this game, we're going to ask the robot to tap a specific coordinate. You guys will see how good it is. So I will have to just do this operation for now. So just to post to the tap endpoint, and we need to give it content type, application /x form coded, whatever. And we'll say, let's go for x 200 and y equals 200. It's good. So I'm going to send this tap command over the wire to this robot server, which now is enlightened with calibration data. And robot will try and touch it. Oh, your car might be to the result. Let's do that again. Let's try that again. I don't know how good it was. Let's see. 193, 199. So he was 7 pixels off on the X, 1 pixel off on the Y. That finger's pretty big though, so he touched it. Trust me. But anyways, we can give it whatever we want. Let's say we want to try touch 100, 300. I don't know if there's a 300 in the X, 240. What do we get? 240, 98, not bad. Or 240, 100. So anyways, the magic of this is though now, if we go into Appium, and I'm not going to demo this in live because I changed the whole robot server and the endpoints don't have them right now, but there's this little robot settings tab you have here. And if you enable this and you provide the IP address of that robot and the port number on which it runs, whenever Appium receives a click or a swipe or whatever, a flip, a double tap, this will do it instead of UI automation or UI automating. And that works because Appium can find the element, it can find out where it is, and then it can tell the pen, or the robot, this is the point to touch. And then it goes and touches it. Or this is where to start the swipe, this is where to end the swipe. With this calibration matrix, we can translate that into arm movement on the robot, which is really cool.
Pinch and zoom?
It only has one thing. There is a guy in Sweden or the Netherlands, one of those countries over there. I know that's very American. You got too many countries over here. There's a guy who's told me he's working on a bigger, better robot for this thing. And I know Jason. Actually, Jason Huggins made this too. The Selenium guy, he made this too. And you can own your very own if you want to, but I'll get to that later. Let's go back to the slides. I'll turn. So I left off on this slide, which I think is a kaiju destroying Sydney. But what this amounts to, and I don't have this demo working at the moment because I just got this thing a couple weeks ago and I've been fixing it. We haven't used it in a while. Mine broke. But this was, as far as we can tell, the first robotically sent tweet in the history of history. This was done at a conference in America by Jason and I a while back. And the robot just tweeted, anyway. So this is the Twitter website, and this is Appium using that translation matrix and that robot to tap for things. But you could, in theory, put your app under here and just use your regular Appium test, and it would work. Once I finish integrating this stuff again. But anyways, I just thought I'd show you that because I think it's cool. In addition to that, that was kind of really what I wanted to show, not that. So I should have put a question slide because that's a little premature because I think there's some questions, but yes.
It's quite funny that pseudo Docker, isn't it? Sorry. We're kind of at the mercy of Google and Nokia back in the day and Microsoft and all these guys. You can build some stuff, Appium, and Apple don't respond to you. Do you not think, WebDriver is becoming a standard, but surely there must be a standard on mobile. What's your view on that? Do you not feel like they could blow you out the water tomorrow? You must feel that.
Who? Microsoft or
Not anyone.
I don't know why, but I don't. I figured if they wanted to do it, they would have already done it. I don't know, maybe that's it, or...
Do you think they deliberately propagate people like us, our technologies?
I think...
You with me? They don't turn around and go, this is how you automate against our technology. End of story.
But they do that. But people don't like the answer. The answer for Android is you write your tests in Java, you write them as part of your Android package, and people don't want to do that. People want to write them in whatever language they want. People want to run them separately. They want to distribute them in the cloud. There is a solution. Google has they have several well-documented, well-architected solutions. But it's not what people want. But their job is just to provide, when you own the car, you give the tools to fix it. I think a good mechanic probably wants better tools, but he could use the tire iron that comes with the car. you're given that, and they give you that. I think that's the limit of their sort of accountability to it. They're like, well, we gave you the toolbox. It's up to you to sort of, if you need better stuff, go get it.
That's a brilliant answer. Thank you so much.
Any other questions about Appium? About robots?
So, as far as actually running the test, is it just basically a
Microphone.
smaller one? So is it just basically that you run a command, or you want to put it into Jenkins or something as a job that generally set up and you know where all your devices are, and it's just one command to Appium server to run anything and get the results back?
You can do it however you wish. Like where I work, it's Maven. Not my choice, but it's Maven. So the Maven verify command will go and it will execute all the JUnit tests that exist. And then we use like all the JUnit utilities to map configurations and all that. But you can roll your own. I worked at another company where we did it all on .NET. We had our own distribution system. We had our own server, device farm and all that. That way, we sort of don't. I think it'd be great if we solved that problem, but it's not really in scope of like what we do. Like, and everyone sort of wants something different. I think he's mentioned that the DVC sort of has something along those lines that they're going to open source soon. But it's sort of a different problem, and I think requires sort of a different realm of expertise. And it's all testing, but at the same time, like, writing a website doesn't mean you know how to manage servers, right? I think it's more like managing servers is more like writing a website. And so it'd be great to see some good solutions to that. And there are some like frameworks out there. There's like Arachna something or other that does some of this stuff. I've seen some stuff around it. Or you can just use whatever and then wedge Appium into it. That tends to be what most people do. All right. AV guy has a question. So I forgot his name. I called him AV guy.
Dave. Yeah, we're kind of a fashion robot. How much do they cost?
Well, funny you should mention that. Let's ask Google. So this Tapster bot could be yours for the lean price of $650 US, which is currently sadly 440 Great British pounds. But it's also open hardware, which if you're not familiar with open hardware, it's like open source software. And that all the CAD files you need to build this thing on a 3D printer are free on the internet. So all one would need to do is buy this $75 Arduino board and a bunch of plastic, and then go have it cut at a 3D printer and be yours for free. But anyways, this is just on this thing called Tindy. He sells them. That's Jason. More. I actually need to see shots of it. The thing's here. But yeah, there you go.
How difficult is it to run something that you know is obviously free and obviously so useful to all of us and the rest of the world when you know you could have commercialized it?
All right.
How difficult is it?
So I made this. In America, we have funny laws. One of them is that your employer frequently writes a contract saying that. I wonder if I should say this on video, but in most contracts, in most tech companies, things you create on company time with company resources or company property. So Appium was something I did at work for work with work equipment on work time. And so it was technically the property of the dating site I owned. Now, owning a mobile automation framework does not exactly fit into the money-making strategies of most online dating sites, and we were no different. But I asked my boss, hey, like, you probably aren't going to let me sell this thing because you'd like me to keep working here, and if I go commercialize this thing, like, I won't work here anymore. But what if we just open sourced it? What if we just gave it away? And they were totally cool with that. I never really wanted to commercialize it because even to this day, it's like this weird dream that you don't wake up from, where like one day you're just like, oh, someone's gonna find out it's total crap, and they're gonna let everyone else know. And so I think I still kind of think like that, which is weird, but at the time I never expected it to do what it did, and it was open. And I guess actually the other point is, without open source, it isn't what it is. Like, I think one of the reasons Appium has been successful is that unlike other frameworks, it's open source. There are like Soasta and all these other closed source things that do this sort of stuff. But without the community, it really isn't awesome. Like, the version I wrote was total shit. It literally dumped out raw JavaScript commands to sequentially order text files and read them in with the cat commands, and then run eval on them in JavaScript. Like, it was total junk. And like, I think when I first wrote it, each command took like 2 seconds. So like, you would say, find that element, tap that element, and that was like 5 seconds. And without the help of all the smart people that joined the open source project, like, those problems probably wouldn't have been solved by me, or at least not very quickly. He's trying to start a slow clap, people, don't leave him hanging. Yeah, I think without other people, that stuff doesn't get solved. Like, the people at Facebook solved the 2-second thing. You know, the Android thing I didn't do. And a lot of the web, I've done very little of this project, honestly. Like, I wrote the initial prototype on iOS. I've contributed some features to the iOS and Android set, like the Japanese things. I was showing the stuff I did. Like, the app is me, the Japanese, the language switching, that kind of me. But like, you know, most of the work is done by other people. Without them, like, Sauce pays guys like to work on this. Like, they have 2 other guys that just pay several months out of the year to just work on it. And so, and I think, yeah, you guys too, Testdroid pays some people to work on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, it's not awesome without them. So there's really, commercializing it would mean hiring all these smart people that I don't think I could make what their salaries cost for this thing. Or I probably could, but either way, I wouldn't want to. Like, it should be free. I don't know. Cool. Silent clap now. There we go. What's your name, by the way?
Great answer. It's a great answer. Thank you so much. Sorry.
And thank you for Appium.
Thank you for Appium. I mean, it's
The man you should thank is
it's an industry standard now. It is an industry standard. You should be so proud.
I'm very proud.
And you could have tried to commercialize it, you didn't. And the answer you've just given is absolutely solid.
Well, thank you. If you'd like to thank someone more worthy, Jonathan Lips will be speaking at the Appium meetup. I thought I had a slide on that. It's the first week of June, I want to say, like the Wednesday. And so you guys should come and see him talk about Appium. He's the guy that these days pulls all the strings. I just go around and like go to all the parties, take all the photos of the celebrities, you know, whatever else being an open source project founder amounts to. Cool. I'm trying to get anything else to talk.
One last question.
What do you call your robot?
It's not my robot. I just own it. Maybe it is my robot, man. But Jason Huggins designed and built this thing. I wrote a lot of the software that it runs with, but he built the thing, and he's the guy. He actually, I think, has a company now called Tapster Robotics or something, and they're looking. He sold a lot of these things, which, given that they don't have working software, is kind of interesting. Like, that's the guy I want selling my stuff. You know?
I would have called it T2000 or something.
But yeah, it's called Tapster. Is the name of it. I didn't name it. I also didn't name Appium, damn it. So I'm just getting effed over on all this stuff. Like, actually, the funny story behind the name is that Jason regrets he didn't name Selenium. Actually, apparently, I think someone at ThoughtWorks with him named it. Like, they were sending emails around, and someone was like, there was a tool called Mercury at the time. I never used that. I don't know what it was, but and I think Selenium is what you take for mercury poisoning. And so, like, his tool got named Selenium because it was like the cure for mercury, or something along those lines. And so he was very insistent that he get to name this when, like, he started. He was, I guess, the second member of the team, right? So when he started working with me, he was like, "We got to name this thing. We got to name it." And it was a democratic process, but he had clearly, like, been waiting for this moment for like 7 or 8 years to like redeem himself and actually name something. And we initially called it Apple Cart, as in like don't upset the apple cart. It was like iOS only. But then Jason, the night before I spoke at the Mobile Test Summit, he sent me a mail saying like, "Holy shit, we have to rename it. I read Apple's documents on what they'll pursue for trademark infringements, and Apple Cart was like Exhibit A. And so then we thought, oh, what do we call it? It's like Selenium for apps. How about Appium? So thus it was named Appium. I wanted to call it other stuff. But anyway, he made good points. Appium, the Twitter handle was available at the time, but then some Korean person took it or something. And now we can't get it back. And we have Appium devs, which I'm not all bitter about. But yeah, like the website was available, all that. Whereas the other names I suggested were not. And that's, you know, for a while there was like a Russian Android app review site called Appium that kept stealing all our Twitter thunder, but I think they've gone under. And so now we're like the only Appium other than that girl in Korea who hasn't tweeted in 5 years. She actually pulled up a profile. We don't tweet her tweets too. We'll go like guerrilla warfare here with John Oliver or something and just like say, you could go to Appium and let her know you should really not have this account. I shouldn't say this actually. This is how you get.
This is recorded.
Yeah. Never mind. Don't do this. Don't. Well, she didn't even show up anymore. I mean, I have to add Appium. Yeah, there she is. Oh, yeah, it is Korean. Good. She has not tweeted since May of 2013.
She's Iceland.
What?
She's over. She's over.
She's what?
Over.
She's over using Twitter. She's done with it.
Oh. Anyway. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks. We'll be having next topic. So we'll start talking on Testdroid.
Yeah, you can. So hey everyone, my name is Ville-Veikko Helski. I'm the technical product manager at Testdroid, and just takes maybe a second I set up. I don't have a cool robot demos, but I have actually thousands of devices you can run tests on the cloud. And I'm actually continuing a bit about the Appium. And by the way, yeah, bear with my Finnish accent. So.
Do the Alabama one.
We're gonna have a Testdroid here. Sorry, I'm very bad with accents. So hey, first question: how many of you have heard about Testdroid before? 5, 6. Okay. How many have used it before? None. Beautiful. This is great. So I have a great giveaway for everybody. So you guys are now registered here during this evening, and I'll give you a 1 week full access to all of our devices. We have about 400 Android devices, unique devices, 20 iOS devices, thousands of copies of these devices. So please do register over here, and I'll give you access to all of our devices. You can try it out. You can actually use Appium, or you can use some other framework, or whatever you want. I'm also sharing with you this the demonstration I'm showing you today. It's actually pretty cool. It's kind of launch. We did the release yesterday, and it's the image recognition feature with the real devices running Appium on these devices we have in the cloud. And after this presentation, I'm actually given 30-day full access to some of you. I have a lottery boy actually waiting back in Finland for sending me someone's email. So please do register during this presentation, and we'll get all of this. So before we start, so what's Testdroid? I mean, not many of you had heard about it. So we have one product that can be actually deployed in 3 different ways or different options. So Testdroid Cloud is our public cloud service where we actually host these devices. You can access any of them anytime. Of course, there might be some queuing going on if you do lots of tests. A lot of testers out there doing this stuff. Testdroid Enterprise is a version that you can actually set up for your own premises, for your own environment, and basically have your own devices connected. So there's no visibility outside of that environment, what's going on there. And then we also have an option called Testdroid Private Cloud, which is actually we host the devices for you. So if you want to have a dedicated reserved devices for yourself, and 24/5 basically available for you, we basically provide this sort of option. it's pretty popular actually nowadays. Globally distributed teams, a lot of people all over the world, they want to run these tests on real devices. We have lots of different integration with different stuff. You know, of course, Jenkins was mentioned, you know, Jira, Eclipse, Android Studio, Gradle, Build System, so on and so on. That's really the only product slide that I have now. The rest of this stuff is really something else. I wanted to pull one slide together actually to show what sort of popularity actually this kind of cloud-based environment gets. So during the first quarter this year, we got 25 plus something million test runs on our public device. That's a huge number of test runs, device runs, which basically means that that device ran some APK or IPA on basically. And there was nearly 900,000 test cases used during this time. Many of them, of course, were Android, but as you can see from average failure rate, there's not much difference. I mean, it's still Android world is still thought about more fragmented than iOS, but you know, there's a lot of problems with iOS, and I'm actually showing some of the things what actually on iOS. 3 minutes, 26 seconds for average length of the test. Of course, you can have a lot of tests in parallel or in continuous order. One of the things we actually gathered from this kind of data that we get from test runs, we do have lots of application developers like SwiftKey, game developers, Supercell, Heyday, Clash of Clans, Angry Birds, by Rovio, and so on. All of them are tested on our devices. So we do get a lot of data, and we want to basically utilize that and help let the whole mobile development ecosystem to know why apps fail. And this is really the case that one of the third of issues are related to hardware. Hardware, when we say that there's of course display, there's sensors, there's other types of hardware, but also chipsets and the memory cause lots of issues for the developers. About 2/3 of the problems seen on these test runs are basically based on a software problem, meaning OS version on iOS or Android, the OEM customizations. That's one of the root cause for any kind of issue that you see a problem, that OEM push a new release, new update on some Android device, and basically suddenly your apps doesn't work anymore like they used to. And other software, there's lots of apps today or games today that actually rely on, let's say, social media apps. You need to actually use Facebook or Twitter or something, but suddenly that doesn't simply exist, or it's not pre-installed in that device. This is one case what I want to show, just an example. So when we have a base version of certain OS, like iOS 8 or no, we saw a lot of problems on those running apps on those devices. When we got 8.0.2, the problems were slightly less. I mean, there's significantly less problems on when you get new. But when you have a version, regardless is it Android or iOS, that actually significantly brings something new, we see suddenly a problem again. So trend typically is that it goes, when you have a smaller, obvious bug version releases, the problems go down. But when you have a minor or the major version update, we see problems coming up again. And this is, of course, there's lots of reasons. We got a lot of in our database the problems, why actually something failed, why something actually caused issue on that. Some of the things, many things think that
Okay. Do you feed that back to Apple and Google, or do you rely on your customers to raise specific issues?
Yeah, one of the things actually we don't want to, I mean, obviously there's a lot of commercial apps here, people making money out of these apps and games. We don't want to put too many details out. Of course, we can generalize why certain things fail, like I showed you, this kind of high level things. That's better to show it that way, that you have to take into consideration that certain chipsets aren't powerful enough, or some GPUs have a flaky drivers or things like that. So we are not feeding back that to these OEMs.
Would that then help your customers make better decisions about what devices to select?
It does, because it's typically a question that what devices should I use for testing? So what are those recommended devices that I should actually consider for testing? I'll come to that. I have a slide about it. So display, of course, is one of the things that's caused or thought to cause some sort of fragmentation of problem on these devices. But it's not really the resolution itself. There's lots of more and more problems associated in, for example, the orientation of the screen. One of my favorite game, actually, when you play it on this position and you twist it on the horizontal, it's totally crashes. I've let them know about it. One of the things also that there's lots of differences in the chipsets. Some are powerful. If you rely on the benchmarks, mobile benchmarks out there, you get variety of different numbers, different metrics, how certain things perform. But nevertheless, there are still major differences. Even the major ones, Qualcomm, NVIDIA, MediaTek, all those. There's lots of differences in those things. From our calculation, it's 57 cycles that you have to test until you basically have fixed all the bugs you revealed on the first time when you run the test. And many people want to try it out on the latest versions. Let's say we have someone coming in and asking that I want to definitely test on 5.1 version Android, KitKat 5.1. I'm not interested in all of them. But that's not really wise idea, because you still have a huge user base using all those older ones, and it will take some time until they will convert or upgrade to the new one. So good balance, what OS versions, what devices, what kind of hardware configuration, it's very important for the testing. And of course, when you update your application every day, typical customer, they actually build APK every day and they push it to our cloud devices to run. So if you would do it manually, it would be simply way too frequent to get all these things tested. I said this publicly before, but it's definitely the OEMs that cause more problems than Google or basically Google in this scene. So OEMs bring their OEM updates. 5.1 version, for example, with Android, it's not publicly available in too many devices yet. But soon, when it will, we will see lots of issues with it. So it's definitely OEMs. They want to customize. They want to differentiate. They want to use their own legacy stuff on it. Everybody's seen this. I mean, it's quite huge Android fragmentation map. But I wanted to show you, because of the question you had actually, that how many devices is enough. So if you just stare at that fragmentation map, you can calculate it. I want to fit half of that. So how many do I need for 2/3 of half of? We can give you this sort of metrics. I'm actually writing just for a blog every now and then about our findings and observations from the test runs, which actually what kind of devices you should definitely try out, what are problematic, and when we do these listings of the most problematic and the most robust devices, of course, you should have a good balance of everything. You have to have robust devices, but you have to have those flaky ones as well. Yes, please.
You might.
Did you have a question?
You might.
Yeah, sure.
To be honest, most people who develop anything for Android devices have already written it for Apple. They've already written it for iOS. They think it's the new Angry Birds. And then suddenly, it's on the App Store. It's not a problem at all. It's propagated, etc., etc. Do you think, as a result, that devaluation, like that it's just switched on, yeah, fine, it's available on Android, that it makes Google's operating system like non-plus? Like people don't have any value for it. They just, but I can release a game right now and it turns up on the Android store.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
with me? Like, oh, this ice cream, this, there's that.
Absolutely. You have to have a title, you have to have a name, you really
You're with me there, like almost the pointless nature of the Google ecosystem. Do you see that or not?
Not really. I mean, I think, that it's a great thing that you can actually, with the Google, that, pretty much instant releases. It's a great thing. I think the iOS, Apple, I mean, it takes some time to get your Apple game, in and even updated. So if you have serious problems with your app, it, and you get bad ratings, bad feedback, it's, you should jump on that right away. You should fix that, and that's how it should be done. And that's done, in under it can be done. Okay, but hey, I have a lot of slides. I don't want to spend too much time on the slides. I have a very cool demo at the end. We're not going to use robots. We're going to use those devices that I have there at the cloud. So I'll be skipping a few of these. Test automation on mobile. There's Appium. I'm really a fan of Appium. I think it's the most promising framework out there right now. I've been using half a dozen of different frameworks quite intensively past 2 years. I have an engineering background. I have been programming about 30 years of my life. Last 10 years, slightly less than I used to be. I used to live with the code, but I still do some programming and the I found Appium really nice, easy, and one of the great things with the Appium is that it really relies on the Selenium base, so you can actually have the same calls. And I'll show you in a demo something cool about it. Let's keep that one slow. So wanted to highlight, we do still get this question, especially with the game developers, that you still need to do the manual testing. But everything in mobile, mobile application development, game development, it's so much agile oriented. Everything is agile nowadays. All the practices. How many of you are not doing agile? One. Sure, what are you doing?
We're trying to have we're trying, but it's a fragile.
All right. So yeah, one of the things, of course, with the mobile, it's really meant to be agile and the development. So when you do you have a source commit eventually at the end of the day. You build an APK, Jenkins build you APK, or something in your environment builds you APK or IPA, and you can push it instantly for the devices on a cloud, and use the test automation, really hammer those apps. And the next morning you have the results. This is very common nowadays. It's, lots of big organizations, they do this, they utilize the time, extra time. Okay, it might work the other way, that engineers are writing the code at nighttime and then it gets tested on the day. Nevertheless, the time that they are not working on a code, the app is getting executed on devices with the certain test automation scripts. Then I mentioned emulators. I may have a kind of different opinion on that. Real devices are really only must to have, must to use. I mean, you cannot get reliable. I mean, emulators provide you certain things. You can test, but they are not running on the actual hardware. They are not running actual software either. So, they cannot provide you what goes on with the actual environment, what the user will see on that device. And, user experience, usability, all that stuff, of course. And what comes with the real devices, of course, that will, you get exact information what happened during that device. So real devices are definitely our recommendation to the test automation. This is a picture I saw Google Test Automation Conference. Did anyone follow the stream or participate there? Okay, Google was driving this kind of idea, manual way, you have to have a lot of people, there's a bottleneck, you might do certain things, you might have just a few devices eventually that where it gets tested. But in automation, one guy can do a lot with one device and replicate it even hundreds or thousands of devices. This is something, of course, there's different ways to test. Not everything is that you have a test script and you write Appium or Selenium or Appium or some other script and you test it. There's of course this kind of record and playback tools. You can actually do the interactions on your device and it gets recorded, eventually generated you as a test script, and then you can run it on other devices. Same thing goes with these test exercisers. So, for example, what we have in Testdroid cloud is called App Crawler. You just send your APK or IPA there, and App Crawler pokes around it, goes through the menus and presses buttons and does all kind of things with it. And you get something out of it, kind of like obvious things. Okay, my app crashed. That's a problem. My app resolution or orientation was wrong. That's a problem. Those kind of things you get instantly. You don't have to write any code or any test for that. So, they are not really sophisticated anyhow, of course, but you get at least something for starters. Then okay, I need to do a test for this and that area. There's different sort of tests. So many of users actually they build these feature-based tests, that's end-user tests. But more and more, of course, when we're talking about real devices, you can actually do this, is especially with the mobile games important, but performance tests, so that you actually get that game running on all possible different configurations. So it can be a really small thing where you can optimize a couple of things, and it will run on the low-end or mid-range devices. Okay, let's look at these frameworks. So, Appium, great presentation from Dan today. This is kind of like a family tree of different frameworks. If we look at everything is coming from the Android instrumentation. They're coming from JUnit background, or based on JUnit IDE. We of course have the UI Automator from Google. That's slightly different. Certain benefits of having UI Automator over the instrumentation, but nevertheless, the espresso that Google also provides or actually maintains. That's a good question. Actually, Dan said that. Why aren't Google interested heavily? Why aren't Apple interested heavily? They have done these kind of frameworks by themselves, but they are not really aggressively pushing this either. There's a certain ecosystem around that. The good frameworks. I don't say that. I mean, it's really, but Google doesn't really aggressively push. Either Apple does with the instrumentation. I mean, it's fairly non-existent. And Calabash. So these kind of frameworks, I just put a slide here together to illustrate what kind of things, how you can compare these. It's imminent. Not everything will work with Appium or Rebolium or some other framework. There are different types of apps, games, and web stuff that we see people building and testing on Testdroid. We don't actually, it's still very difficult to recommend framework. Some things might be working well with Appium, but would not work with the Rebolium and so on. So you really have to find that what fits the best. Of course, it's an organizational thing as well. What are you used to use and what kind of competence you have? But I want to still emphasize and highlight that Appium really is the most promising framework out there today, and I have a big hopes seeing it going forward. Appium, as Dan presented, we call it client-side Appium. That means that everything is coming from your machine to our cloud devices at cloud. So you have the desired capabilities configured so that everything is in place. Then you have, of course, the WebDriver that actually gives the local host the IP or the port run to Appium server, and then Appium server runs on that device. So what we've done with Testdroid, you just fix the URL appium.testdroid.com, and it automatically utilizes the devices we have at the cloud. So how it works, you go to cloud.testdroid.com, you get the name of that device, you add those desired capabilities, you point the web driver to correct location, you run the scripts, and you get the results, all screenshot logs and so on. This is pretty nice, but it's not the ideal. It could be better. And about 4 or 5 months ago, we started thinking how it could be better. We identified a couple of things, bottlenecks in a way, especially with these desired capabilities. So many things can go easily wrong there. You just have some typo there, or something, and it's going to be a few minutes until you see that. Then you fix something, a few minutes again, and it's still broken. So we wanted to let's see here. Okay, so we wanted to look at it from the server side, so that everything locates on our server, the app, the test, and you don't have to configure those desired capabilities. So I have a demonstration, the same app we used. It's using the image recognition now. Same mobile game we just played with the emulator. Set up for this demo is I'm running it on real devices at Testdroid Cloud. We can run it all of them, and everything gets done parallel. So when I click the submit or the run, test runs starts on all of those devices. And it's only really about the configuring the device group that I want to run. What goes into those files? So of course there's I need to define, for example, I'll be showing how it builds, but you have to have these PNGs for the files that describe the elements UI there. For example, Appium is not that, you cannot identify some UI elements ID or button ID over there, but instead you can show that's the picture, that's the icon I want to press, or swipe, or drag, or do a gesture, or whatever. I mean, that sort of things are possible. And it's like really handy when you actually can point it as a graphics. You can just take a screenshot and say that, play this game. Some of you might have seen that video that we have had out, where the test automation script, Appium script, actually goes through the class of clans tutorial. I actually referenced that in the Smashing Magazine article that Joshi included in the introduction of this event.
Do you mind if I ask the question?
Sure, absolutely. Sorry.
What's the difference between what you're offering and source labs selling? What's the difference?
Emulators and real devices. Plus, of course, Appium is just one framework. We provide support for, Android, Robotium, Calabash, another frame. In a private cloud environment, we can enable very exotic frameworks for you. Like in the public environment with all devices, we typically have these 5 for Android. For iOS, it's Jasmine, UI Automation, Calabash, Appium.
Cool.
Great question, thanks. Okay, here's the script that I'm going to actually run soon. So just a couple of lines, not really sophisticated anyhow, but I wanted to illustrate how this works. And actually, you'll get this project for yourself if you want to give it a try at Testdroid Cloud or locally. So just remember that URL that you'll sign up and you'll get this stuff. So, so I'm actually in this game. You saw this picture. It gets so loaded, and when you actually have this view on the screen, I've been pointing that I want to show this picture, and when I see this picture, then this script will continue its execution. When we see this kind of view on the screen, we want to locate the more, click button over there, and then we tap image on screen. So I have a couple of function calls here. I have some bounce backs here, so I just skip here until I get to the gameplay. So this is the start. I have done some tuning for this, and I see this is the PNG file that actually should be found in that screen view, and when that's found, it does another tab on that image. Eventually, you have the game going on, and I want to press this button 15 seconds. So this actually is the defined that you will run, or you will actually press that button 15 seconds where you have this gas pedal. Yeah, please.
Yeah, just a quick question. I was wondering, how rigid is the magic connection thing? Because obviously on Android, if you buy a tablet or you play, some games can be played in both portrait or downfield, whatever, or some maps. If the image is slightly a different size, if that's a movie reader or something, how would that work?
Great question. So now how it works, is it stretched or is it rotated? Doesn't matter, it finds the elements. So we try to build that in more and more. But it does it already. So pretty cool. So, all right, let's see the demo. So, all right, I'm logging in to my Testdroid Cloud account. And I will create it. You probably haven't visited Testdroid Cloud, so I'll explain what you can actually see here. So, of course, there's a typical project management. You can create for yourself projects. You can create test runs. You can generate reports. You can also configure device groups. Actually, all of our devices can be found here. You can, let's say you want to build the Android devices with, let's say, a certain instruction set, or you want to build an Android device groups with certain memory, amount of memory, or any kind of spec. You can just, filter this info here and get the device group built for yourself. Okay, now how the build goes. So I've actually done it here. This is the project. It's a good place to store the files. Yes?
The one you are showing, is it emulators or?
No, all real devices. So we don't use emulators at all. All of our devices are non-rooted, except few Xiaomi's had to be rooted, otherwise we could not connect. There was some significant issues with the ADB connection with these devices. Okay, so I've created a project here. I have a couple of test runs here in advance, but I'll want to start here a new test run. Upload. Basically, it would ask me at first. By the way, the thing I mentioned, it shows me Calabash now, but it's actually running the Appium test run. That was the thing that we spotted out. This is the same APK. Now we're gonna run. I can of course choose the file here, just manually upload, or I can push all this stuff via API here in Testdroid Cloud. You don't have to use it manually. You don't have to just log in. You can push it via API if you have credentials. You have enable that. Then the next step is you basically upload the test file. It's the archive.zip now. It was the file structure I showed in the slide. So there is POM, XML, some properties, and of course the pictures and the test itself. So regular Appium test, you don't need to have desired capabilities here. When we get this zip file, we will override those desired capabilities. So they will get exact right properties for these function calls. You don't have to write it. Nothing goes wrong when automation does it here. The next step is where I select the devices that I want to run. There's Android devices 359 now in one of my device group. Let's try that.